What's up, everybody? Welcome to Hashtag Sports. So, interesting news, important news, I should say. The Buffalo Bills have officially made a move, and Nyheim Hines has officially been added to the Buffalo Bills. A raucous cost of a sixth-round pick in Zach Moss, which I think pretty much everybody that's a Buffalo Bills fan will say Moss has been inactive for the last couple games. Even the games that he was active for, he really didn't participate much at all. And listen, Buffalo's been trying to get better at the running back position for quite some time. You saw that by the drafting of James Cook. And I know the knee-jerk reaction is for people to say, oh my goodness, you traded for Nyheim Hines. What does this mean for James Cook? Pump the brakes a little. Listen, I am actually quite happy about this deal. And there's a couple reasons why. Matthew Harmon said, I had a feeling we were shopping Moss. Absolutely, right? This is not a blockbuster trade. Great comment by King Cam. This is not a blockbuster deal. Steven just wants to know why. Listen, Zach Moss is gone. That's okay. And listen, I'm going to be joined by my good friend and co-host, Mario Granata. Mario, let me put on my headset here real quick. And let me pop you on. Look at that. And we are actually where we're supposed to be. Default settings. Who knew? What's up, buddy? Didn't expect to see you on.
Well, I like the rest of Hashtag Nation got a notification because when Paul goes live, he doesn't want me to interrupt him. So
that's not true at all. That's not true at all. I just figured you'd be busy. That's all.
Yes. Well, I mean, now it all makes sense now, right? All makes sense.
So Nyheim Hines is now a Buffalo Bill. And you know, Mar, this was kind of something that I think was pretty obvious. This, as far as what Buffalo was trying to do, you look at adding Duke Johnson, on the practice squad. So that's there. You looked at when they tried to sign J.D. McKissick. McKissick and Hines are really no different as a player. They're the same player.
No, they're very explosive out of the backfield. They give you viable receiving threats, and I just want to know how he's going to adjust to the system. Now, one of the things that we talked about a lot of times in the past, when you had Moss, Singletary, and any of those other type of running backs, you're sitting there going, well, they don't have to adjust the offensive philosophy. It's not like you're bringing in a huge banger and then you have this little shifty running back. You have to adjust the offensive calls. Mm-hmm. Now you don't have to do that. What Hines is what 5'9", 200 pounds.
Right. Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
Not too different. So compensation is Zach Moss and a sixth-round pick. Which could escalate to a fifth round. I don't know the conditions on the escalation, but a sixth that could turn into a fifth. And Mar, with that being said, right, this has nothing to do with James Cook. I don't think this has anything to do with Cook at all.
No.
As far as Cook, quote unquote, being ready, there's a lot that goes into being a running back in the NFL that you can't replicate in college. Pass protection is something that I think was really high on Buffalo's list in that third down back scenario. And I think over the last couple of weeks, you've given Cook a few opportunities, but really he wasn't on the field unless he was going to be involved. And again, with the signing of Duke Johnson on the practice squad, the attempted signing of J.D. McKissick, now the trade of Nyheim Hines, I think that shows you they want that receiving back that's also probably a bit better in pass protection than what they got on the roster right now.
Yes, and you look at it from a contractual standpoint. Did you already go over that with the
nope, haven't touched
Nation
it.
Faithful?
Haven't touched it.
Well, first of all, let's hide that ticker, Paul.
There's a ticker.
You were so excited. Ticker? You were so excited that
I don't know. I just hit go live. That's it. I just hit go live.
So Nyheim Hines, as of right now, 26, will have 2 more years on his deal at $6 million per. We don't know how that's going to be adjusted. However, the base salary for those is only 4.4 and 5.1 going over the next 2 seasons, which you were going to have to make a decision in 2 seasons to what you were going to do with Moss anyway. However, the drafting of James Cook overlaps that. So if you lose Hines in 2 years, you still have James Cook for 3 after that. You're muted, Paul. Let me tell you what Paul was saying. He goes, right. And then he was going to get a brilliant statement, and it just went out on him. And sometimes that happens with Paul, but it's hysterical to see how that happens. Get in here. Hey, sweetie.
All right. But let's not forget, Devin Singletary is in a contract year.
Yes.
So to me, you're looking at replacing Singletary with Hines next season, or to just Cook. This is really the runway for Cook to take over RB1 next season. That's what I mean. I don't see this as a negative to Cook. I just think this is just acknowledging the fact that this was a move you were trying to do, and now you can do it for Moss and a 6th-round pick all day.
The only reservation I have for this is that you're thinking about this as a business move in the terms of what was being offered for Hines. Obviously the Colts were selling; they didn't want Hines. What were they selling to the fact that they had to give up a 6th-round pick? Let's not forget Christian Benford was a 6th-round pick in this past year's draft.
Right.
So
that's true.
Bean can find those guys late in round. Yeah. So when Bean starts giving away late round picks, you're like, wait a minute, hold on. Mm-hmm. He expects it to be the 32nd pick in that round. So he's actually giving up a 7th.
Right.
So when you think of it in that respect. But
Ryan
Dane Jackson.
Yeah, Dane Jackson. Hey, Ryan Laceland. Love Ryan. Thank you, Ryan. What's up?
Hines is a better version.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. He's just a more versatile player for you. And listen, Moss was a player who when we saw him on the field, every Bills fan just kind of like leaned back, just bracing for impact, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, what the hell's going to happen?
Moss was the infamous house money draft, right? Because Moss was the draft where they traded for Stephon Diggs, and everything else that draft was house money. They got Epineza, they got Moss, and then they ended up getting Davis and Hodges a little bit later in that, along with Jake Fromm, and I think who else did they get in that draft? I can't remember. But the point was, now it's was said. Look at Ryan Laceland comes in again. He says he's a vet you can trust in big moments. They can't do that with Cook yet. However, there was you couldn't do that with Moss either. Moss was just a running back.
Right.
Maybe he played a little special teams here and there, but he was just a running back. Now you have Hines, who's a kick returner, punt returner. You have a guy that's seasoned, a guy that knows what's expected of him. And you're telling me that this guy with 2 years left on his deal isn't going to play the best kind of football he's going to play for the Buffalo Bills being on that stage now?
I mean, look at what just happened, right? He was in an Indy team that's been digging for a quarterback for the last 3 seasons. And just every year comes up with just another 1-year guy, another 1-year guy, another 1-year guy. He just went from Sam Ellinger starting to now Josh Allen. Like, everything's looking up for Nyheim Hines. And do you think the moves inside the division had anything to do with Buffalo saying, listen, we're not going to be able to skate with what we got. Let's just get it done?
I don't know. I mean, because I initially called you when the Bradley Chubb trade happened.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, well, they're out on Edmonds now. And then I saw the Wilson trade, and I'm sitting there going, well, they got to be out on Edmonds now. You're like, Edmonds was a part of the deal going to Denver.
Right, yeah, Edmonds was part of the Chubb deal. Yeah.
Well, which is fine, but then you mentioned Myles Gaskins. Can you talk to the #faithful about him?
Myles Gaskin. It was so funny because I was laughing about Myles Gaskin. Myles Gaskin owners can rejoice now that Chase Edmonds has been traded. And then lo and behold, didn't Jeff Wilson just get traded to the Dolphins from San Francisco? Yeah. I'm pretty sure he did. So it's like, oh man, Myles Gaskin fans mourn the addition of Jeff Wilson.
My question is this: it's a conditional, just so we get the notes right. It's a conditional 5th. What's the condition? The Bills.
We don't know yet. Yeah, we don't know yet.
The Bills win the Super Bowl. Like, what? What's this condition going on here? Interesting trade enough though, but. You wanted to have a trade that kind of really wouldn't upset the team chemistry as much. You know what I mean? You're muted again, Paul. Jesus. Mary and Joseph. That's what I have to work with, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I have. Here he comes.
God darn it. What is I gotta figure this out. Anyway, I agree because what's happened is people were complaining that Nyheim Hines isn't Kareem Hunt, and word is sneaking out that all they wanted was a 4th for Hunt. Well, okay, fine, right? You traded a 6th, escalated to a 5th for Hines, but Hunt is a different animal, and I mean that in a variety of ways, right? Because you just said you don't want to upset team chemistry. I agree with you. You don't want to upset team chemistry. Kareem Hunt is a player that might do that given reputation alone. Nyheim Hines is, from all accounts, a Boy Scout. Just all accounts is going to completely fit in from a culture perspective with this team. So while you can complain that he's not Kareem Hunt, you're not looking for Kareem Hunt.
No, you're
not
not.
looking for a starter. You don't need that. Hines is going to do a fine job for you. He gives you special teams ability that you can finally add where Moss gave you none of that, right?
Yeah.
And hey, maybe he finally makes Tywan Jones no longer a Buffalo Bill going into 2023.
Oh,
I think we
God.
could all drink to that, right? I think we could all drink to that.
The great thing about, I think, this trade that it speaks to Brandon Beane and it speaks to the Bills is the fact that he's still living in the here and now, but he's also looking toward the future.
Mhm.
You know what? In 2 years, you weren't going to be able to re-sign Zach Moss, or you even wanted to.
Right.
You look at Zach Moss's role on this team and in this offense and what Dorsey wants to do with the running back position, especially this year, looking at it over 7 games, Moss really didn't have a role. So,
No.
okay, hey, we'll give you Moss. We'll give you a guy that, if it's coming from a Brandon Beane pick, okay. He turned that pick into a viable pick now. You have Nyheim Hines, who is, at all accounts, very similar to Devin Singletary, so you don't need to change the offensive game plan, and you're going to have 2 running backs fresh, plus 2 more years on his deal while Cook starts to learn it. Is Nyheim Hines a number 1? No, he's not. But not many people don't think that Singletary was prior to this season. So I think they may have to fast track the learning curve for James Cook.
So I gotta tell you, this is true. The Bills have also added Dean Marlowe. Dean Marlowe is now a Buffalo Bill. I'm not kidding. I thought Ryan was just messing with you by saying the Bills added Dean Marlowe because Marlowe is like one of your guys. No,
don't even
Dean
talk.
Marlowe.
Stop.
What?
Stop it. You don't mess with me.
No, he did.
Funny.
Yeah, it's true. So the Falcons have traded safety Dean Marlowe to the Bills for Rashad Fenton. So the Bills traded a corner for Dean Marlowe.
We acquired Dean Marlowe from the Falcons for a 7th round pick. It was tweeted out by Buffalo Bills.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
Don't mess with me, Paul. No.
Hey, there we go. Dean Marlowe now a
Dean
Buffalo
Marlowe
Bill.
was free. Didn't we trade Lee Smith to them for a 7th? Dean Marlowe is free.
Yeah, Mario is now officially elated with the trade deadline. But people talked about, the Bills secondary was going to be a problem. That safety position is kind of a problem. You bring in a guy already familiar with the system.
I swear to God, wait a minute. I swear to God, because this happens. If the Bills win the Super Bowl, not one of you better say they traded the Mr. Irrelevant pick for Mr. Irrelevant. No, well, but you get a safety back there who knows the system, has been in there. He knows how to, quarterback that defense. Now, with trading for Marlowe, does this put, as we talked about before, and you mentioned it, we have an article on Dean Blundell. Does this put Poyer on the IR for a little bit?
And maybe it does, right? You got to have a move to correspond to activate Trey. Maybe you bring Dean Marlowe back. You already know. He already knows everything going on. I do want to call out this comment, though, from Bills Mafia Man 55. Normally a bit more positive than this. He's a little pissed by the fact that Nyheim Hines is the guy that you added, and he's comparing it against the other teams who have made deals. Chubb and Jeff Wilson going to the Dolphins, the Chiefs getting Kadarius Toney, and we get what he says is a non-impact running back. I disagree there, right? Because I think if you added a player like Kamara, who the Bills admittedly couldn't afford, or Christian McCaffrey, who again the Bills admittedly could have afforded McCaffrey, but you really couldn't afford Kamara. So those are impact level players, but you're talking about almost reinventing the role of the running back in that offense with a rookie offensive coordinator. I think that's a bit to bite off, right? And plus what you have to give up to get those guys. I know Super Bowls are important, but your running game's working okay. I would have liked to have seen something on the offensive line, I guess. We had to be picky. But, I mean, the Bills made 2 trades at the deadline, which is kind of unheard of anyway. So,
yeah,
I'm good here. I don't need Hunt. I don't need Josh Jacobs. I don't need guys coming in that expect to be the one. I don't need that. I'm good with Nyheim Hines coming in.
Okay, so we're looking at it. You got to remember, too, and people need to know this, that Jacobs and Hunt are both on contract years. Okay, let's just get the business part of it out of the way. Now, Jacobs and Hunt are on contract years. Jacobs did not have his 5th-year option exercised, or it might have been a different story. So you think about it in that respect. And Hines has 2 more years. He's more or he's better fit into this offense, because if you look at the other two guys and you look at them against Nyheim Hines, what do you need? You need a guy that can pick up pass pro on third down, a guy that can give you maybe 10 to 12 touches a game, and a guy that can catch the ball in space and make a move for you.
Yep.
Those two guys, could they do some of that stuff? But they're more bangers inside, and I understand that. However, in order to retain those guys, giving up draft picks and draft capital, which are controllable 4-year deals, which is what you're going to need with all these contracts coming up on the horizon, are you willing to trade Jacobs for Poyer, Edmonds, Oliver, any of these other guys you have to sign? Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to trade a rental that you may sign for Poyer, for Edmonds, for Oliver? You have to, you guys have to take a look at that, especially with Rousseau's contract on the horizon and all this other stuff. I know guys like to talk about the contract like it doesn't, like the salary cap, like it doesn't exist. What's this and that and the third?
I know. Well, everybody says Brandon Beane's a wizard, and I got to be honest. There's no way you could have really freed up money for the 2022 Buffalo Bills. Now, corresponding moves again: Ryan Lasel coming in clutch, Brandon Bryant, the oft-released Brandon Bryant, and Isaiah Hodgins. Again, these guys are them being released is no surprise. That they have been released several times.
So active. So far it says that Buffalo Bills PR activated Trey White, reinstated Xavier Rhodes to the practice squad, released Brandon Bryant and Hodges, which probably will come back to the practice squad, and you released cornerback Jordan Miller from the practice squad as well as acquiring Dean Marlowe for free. You remember? You got a 7th rounder for Lee Smith from the Falcons. So beautiful.
So that's where we are, Mar. And I'm good with all of this, right? I think a lot of teams that have to make splash moves feel like they have to compete, and teams are coming for Buffalo, right? Miami makes a deal to come for Buffalo, and I'm good with that, right? I'm good with just making sure we've got the depth to survive, and I'm willing to trust, and I think Hines is a nice player. I think he's a real nice player. I can't be mad about this.
Yeah, I'm not mad about it at all. I think getting a running back, because let's put it this way, you weren't using Moss. He was a healthy scratch. I mean, what would you want to do? You would want to have Singletary healthy, and a guy that runs like Singletary, that has the receiving ability of Singletary and could be a kick returner, punt returner for you, is a guy that you pretty much stole for the next 2 years. He's going to cost you $10 million, depending on how you rework the contract, add a voided year. Who knows? Bean's always really good at doing that. Plus, you're not hamstringing yourself financially for some of the moves that you're going to have to make, difficult moves in this offseason with some of the guys. Like, what if the Buffalo Bills traded a third and a second, or a third and a fourth, or back-to-back thirds for Josh Jacobs, and then they don't win the Super Bowl and they don't re-sign Jacobs?
Right.
Now where are you? Now you have to try to fill your roster. Like, what happens?
Great point.
So,
great point, Mario.
Yeah, that's why I'm fine with this. That's why I'm fine with it.
100%. I agree with you 100%. So, first off, I want to point out, Jonathan says, got to get the RBs more involved in pass game. Singletary is on pace, or has been on pace, for a career receiving year.
80 catches.
Which is not at all what I want.
No.
There's no way.
Oh, Stefan, I would pump the brakes on that one. I would pump the brakes on it.
Yeah.
He's another TJ Yeldon or Matt Breida. I don't know if that.
Nah, I think
necessarily
that's just pessimism. That's just pessimism. Desi just does bring up a good point. He goes, I'm sick of getting the same RB. You're right. I think that's interesting that you look at the stature of a player and say these guys are all relatively similar. I agree with you, right? Buffalo has a type. This is the type. This is what Brandon Beane feels is effective on an NFL level, and you can agree or disagree with that. The good news is you can kind of see something like this coming. J.D. McKissick is exactly in the exact same boat as Nyheim Hines, who's in the exact same boat as Duke Johnson, who's in the exact same boat as Devin Singletary. There's a type here. So the good news is you're never going to see them invest a huge amount of money in the running back position, right? Because there's a lot. I just named 5 guys that they all see on the same level, right? Yeah. As far as the type. And you're just always going to see a carousel. You just have to come to accept that, because you're not going to be able to get a stalwart running back when you're going to have to pay Gabe Davis soon. You're already paying Stephon Diggs. You have to figure out what you're doing with Edmonds and Oliver on the other side of the ball. You have no idea what's going to happen with Poyer. Like, there's a lot at play.
There's a
And
lot going on.
yeah, there's a lot at play, and I'm good with that. Plus, don't forget, this is a very big air quotes, quarterback heavy draft, right? So Buffalo not giving up a ton of assets in a very quarterback heavy draft is smart. Not saying they're going to trade their picks to a team that's looking for a quarterback, but that means players are going to fall that normally wouldn't fall because 3 to 4 teams are going to be real aggressive trying to get the next guy, right? Trying to get that next quarterback for their organization, which means that's another 3 to 4 players to drop to Buffalo. So I'm glad they're giving up late picks and not early picks, because you're positioning yourself for the 2023 draft to go out and, if you don't resign Edmonds, to replace Edmonds. If you know you can't afford Oliver, to replace Oliver. If you know that you can't replace Poyer or Hyde in free agency, to replace those positions at a higher draft capital. Like, it just all makes sense.
It does. And financially, he's going to try to keep himself in the green as far as that goes with a lot of these moves. I agree with you 110%, Paul. I was people were throwing in the chat what was Hines' draft. He was drafted a year before Singletary, but it's absolutely comical because I just by the eye test, I was like, they're pretty much similar. They're similar guys. Yeah. They're similar runners. 5'8", 5'7", 200, 203. Vertical, 35.5, 35. Broad, 119, 117.
Yep.
20-yard shuttle, 4.35, 4.4. The only difference is that Hines runs a lot faster.
Hines is quicker. Hines is quicker than Singletary.
But you're we just mentioned it just from the eye test. Yeah, you look at their combine profiles, is that they're pretty much the same type of type back. Bean has a type. Let's talk about that way. Bean has a type. So
sure does. Sure does.
That being said, I'm not. I can understand why these moves were made. I can understand why not a big splash move was made. Like, honestly, if Bean wanted to go to a big splash move, and I know a lot of Buffalo Bills fans might hate this take, I would rather the Buffalo Bills be competitive for the next 15 years rather than shoot for the moon right now and then you go 9-8 next year because you don't have you couldn't re-sign anyone, and the guys and talent that you had on your team was just leaving. So. I don't know. I like the moves, and it doesn't hamstring you for the future years.
I agree. A lot of teams, when they start pushing their chips into the middle of the table, make bad long-term decisions, right? And this isn't going to hurt you in any way. You traded Zach Moss in a 6th, like that. What are you worried about here? You're not. This is
what I mean. It's like one of those things where we go and go, okay, guys, a week ago, guys, here's what we're gonna do. We're going to give you a faster Devin Singletary and safety depth for a 6th and a 7th round pick next year. Would you guys take that? I'm pretty sure everybody would. But the names, everyone wanted the names. Everybody wanted those. Hunt. You want Jacobs. You want Barkley. You
another
want Kamara,
one, Antonio Gibson, right? And I think Antonio Gibson is a fun player to watch, but Antonio Gibson started being a running back when he got drafted in the NFL, right? He's new to that position. He's piss poor in pass protection, so that doesn't fit. That doesn't fit what Buffalo needed, right? And he's going to be a free agent in 2024, so you get 1 year of him on a rookie deal. And while Antonio Gibson is a lot of fun, and he's real dynamic, he's been replaced by a rookie running back in Washington, right?
Yeah.
So, and plus being kind of dumped on Washington when they stole McKissick back, right? So I don't really know trading for him was really all that much of an option to begin with.
I don't think that. I think that was fractured a little bit. I think
right. And to be honest with you, Gibson is one of the few reasons to be excited about that team, because even though he's lost his job, he's been really good in a pass catching role for them. So they weren't going to move Gibson. If they got an offer for a 2nd or a 3rd round pick, they probably would have, but they were not going to move Antonio Gibson. So anybody that says that they were willing to move Gibson for a 4th or a 5th, no way. They weren't going to be moving Gibson for that.
Yeah. I think the narratives coming out of today should be, okay, James Cook is probably ahead of where he's supposed to be at this point in the year, because if he wasn't, they wouldn't have made this trade. I think so, because now you're sitting there going, okay, You had 2 years left with Moss. What happened before this trade? You had 2 years left with Moss, so you didn't really have to draft a running back next year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Right.
All right. If you trade Moss and you're not able to re-sign Singletary, then Cook has to be ahead of the curve now. Okay,
Yeah.
so now you're going to have Cook and Hines, realistically speaking, if you're not able to sign Devin Singletary, because let's be honest here, of the rankings of guys that are vital to re-sign in the 2023 offseason, I think Singletary is probably fourth or fifth down that list. And if you have Hines there and you have Cook, those are two nice negotiating pieces.
Sure.
You're like, hey, we got these guys. If you don't want to sign for this, we're good.
So MDL 0838, thank you for the super chat. All super chats being donated to the Williams Syndrome Foundation. So thank you again for that. Saying, hey, I'm trying to catch up on the stream, but you guys know that Hines also provides value on special teams as punt returner. Yeah, well, exactly, right? So yet another reason to make your team more versatile, and that's kind of what they do. Steven coming in.
Damn.
I don't want to name the name. I want an RB1. We're irrelevant in the red zone because we're too one-dimensional. This is actually a really good point here, right?
So they have an RB1 already.
Well, I know, but in the red zone,
his number 17, Paul.
Oh, come on. That's right.
You're telling me he's not their number one running option in the red zone?
But I think that's a difference because that's not normal, right? So a lot of people look at it and say, well, where's that big burly back to get me in during the red zone? It wasn't Moss. It isn't really Singletary. Hines certainly isn't it, and Cook's not built for it. So where is that? And yeah, it's Josh on the move. That is your big dangerous red zone runner is Josh on the move. You're not going to see Josh under center in the red zone. That's why you see Josh in shotgun from the 3-yard line. It drives everybody absolutely batshit crazy. But the fact of the matter is he's your best option on the move with the ball in his hands in the red zone.
And you saw in the Packer game, he was on the move in the red zone inside of the 5-yard line. And look what happened. Everyone left and abandoned Dawson Knox and went to him. That's the impact that he has on there. When you have a Josh Allen type player and they use him like judiciously down inside the 10, inside the 5, what's the need for a solid running back, number one running back? You take care of two positions. Now watch the contracts that Jacobs gets. A lot of these running backs get. And look at Dallas right now. They're paying a quarterback and a running back. Huge money.
Yep.
All right. You look at all the stuff that they have. It's tough to try to sit there and go, okay, wouldn't it be nice if they had Zeke's money and gave it somewhere else? You know what I mean? They lost Amari Cooper because of that. They couldn't sign Amari Cooper because of that. So having Allen fill that RB1 role at the goal line, especially in sort of situations,
right?
It's you're able to delegate those assets somewhere else where you need them.
Well, and I think when you look at what it's like to add a running back in the NFL, if you're looking for a power back, guys, I'll be honest with you, I could go through the practice squads of all other 31 teams and you could find 6 to 7 power backs who just really don't fit any other narrative than being a power back in short yardage situations. If Buffalo finds they need that in week 11, 12, they look at it and say, okay, Hines isn't really what we bargained for. Maybe we are a little light in the running back room. There's options for you to sign a guy off another team's practice squad. It's not hard to find a bigger, heavier back to be a red zone guy that you could sign that guy off the street tomorrow, comes in that package and is effective for you if you find your light there. So I don't think you need to address that at the trade deadline. You know what I mean? There's 8 of those guys available right now on other teams' practice squads. You could just go sign. And if Buffalo finds that it's a need, they've drafted a running back each of the last 3 years. Right?
Yeah.
Each of the last 3 years. So I'm good. I think one of the biggest things is we talked about Cook being the only speed in the running back room, and Cook isn't really used enough to be effective like that yet. Hines, I think, gives you more speed in the running back room. So you went from, with Singletary, Moss, and Cook now to Singletary, Hines, and Cook, more receiving backs, but better pass protection. I still keep coming back to that. You improved in protecting Josh.
Yeah, you did 100%.
Because your tackle play, with Spencer Brown's health up and down. Like Spencer Brown's incredibly athletic, but hurt. So you got Quisenberry out there. You kind of need a little bit of help in pass pro out of that running back position. And if this is how you get it to protect Josh, then sign me up. Right? Because I just don't trust the offensive line exactly. If you can't get an offensive lineman in to improve your team, then you improve the running back position and pass protection, and Hines will do that for you.
Yeah, you let me know a linebacker that's going to stay with Hines down the field.
Yeah, doesn't exist.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. Plus, therefore, you're getting teams out of
Edmonds is already on the team. Milano's already on the team.
I absolutely thought Edmonds was going to be somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. All right. Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's with the cap, with the future in mind of the Buffalo Bills and able to, I know you give a 6th and a 7th round pick for a back that's faster than Singletary, that is also a kick return and punt returner, and you get depth at the safety position. I really wish they would have gotten a guy on the interior offensive line. That just didn't happen. They feel that they're all right now. And the thing that we talked about earlier, though, too, Paul, and I want you to bestow this upon the nation. I got to get out of here, but I want you to bestow this upon the nation.
You and I are in the same boat, Mar.
Tackles.
Same boat. Yeah.
Why didn't they go out there and get any tackles, any depth for the offensive line?
This is something that I've heard, and I guess I don't really understand where it's coming from, because bad teams don't have available tackles. Good teams don't have available tackles. Tackles aren't available at the trade deadline, right? Unless it's a quarterback you don't care about on a team that is solely tanking. You don't trade tackles. Like, they don't exist on the trade deadline. Mar, you said it best to me. Bad teams usually have young quarterbacks, and you got to protect that young quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a perfect way to explain it. That's why tackles aren't available at the trade deadline. Even on bad teams, there's still an investment somewhere to protect, and tackles carry just an absolute ton of value.
Yeah, absolutely, no question. And it would have been a little too high for the Buffalo Bills to do. But now they retain their rounds 1 through 5 picks. They get safety depth. They get another running back that they can overlap into the 2023 season without worrying about having to re-sign Devin Singletary if it comes to that, and actually gives them a bargaining chip for Devin Singletary if he wants to resign at a lower deal. You're not breaking the bank for some of these, for Kamara, for as CMC at the time, for Jacobs, for Hunt. Those guys are in contract years. They're going to want to get re-signed. And if you went up to any Buffalo Bills fan or whatever and said, "Hey, listen, we're going to pay Jacobs, but you're going to lose Edmonds, Poyer, and Oliver."
Mm-hmm.
What? And then the narrative next year would have been, for a running back in today's economy? Oh, my God.
Right.
No, but the point is, 2 solid moves by Brandon Beane. I will trust his judgment. I am not an NFL GM, but hashtag Nation and Bills Mafia, thank you for joining us as this news broke today at the trade deadline for today. That is Paul over there. I am a mess.
A hatless Mario Granada.
Yes, we will catch up with you guys. He's back too, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Trey.
He activated off pup.
Trey.
What's up, my buddy? He's back here. So you guys have a great rest of your day. That's why I was home. All right, I'm out of here, guys.
Okay, go Bills. Are you going to end the stream, Mario, or are we just staring at each other? I'll end the stream.
Hello, fellow Bills fans. Sean Rogers, realtor and lead of the Mr. Rogers Homes team. Did you know that real estate is one of the best ways to build wealth, and right now is one of the best times to own an investment property in Arizona? Please reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions so we can take the next step to your financial freedom here in the Valley of the Sun, utilizing real estate. As always, God bless America and go Buffalo!